In this part 10 of my video on drawing on my YouTube banner, I wanted to talk about the bagworm story. So, when I was growing up, we used to have an apple tree in our backyard. It was a crab apple tree. And basically, I didn't like it. It was a very weird tree. And in short, whenever it would drop apples, I had to be like cautious of the yard because a lot of like hornets would come and eat the apples, and we had to clean the apples up of the yard. But more often than not, the the green crab apples would be filled with hornets, so it was never fun, and I downright cringed at having to deal with that every year, and I was pretty young at the time. So eventually, what ended up happening to that tree, uh, I want to say, it got struck by lightning. I think it got struck by lightning, and a big portion of it fell down, but it didn't. It was resilient, and it didn't die. So eventually, what ended up happening was, we noticed all of these. They looked like clumps of silk. I don't know what type of worms they were. We called them bagworms, but I tried looking on the internet for pictures. Like, they were not silkworms, but I think they were bagworms. But I couldn't find like what type they were. But they were pretty much like in this gigantic sack, like a bunch of sacks of looked like spider silk. It wasn't spider silk, but they were all over the tree, and there was an infestation of them, and it was great because they devastated the tree. They devastated the annoying apple tree, and just to tell you, like, we tried eating the apples one time, and I think it didn't end well. I don't know. Our systems are it didn't end well. And from a digestive standpoint, if you can take a guess what that means, you'd probably be right. So yeah, they devastated the tree. They ate all the leaves and all of the apples, and it was great. And it was also really cool to see all of the caterpillars. I'm guessing they were like some type of moth. But yeah, all these caterpillar everywhere, and it was interesting. It was cool. I watched them up front and close. They were definitely moth caterpillars, not butterfly caterpillars, because, like, I guess the right term, they were inchworms, because they would inch whenever they would move. So it was cool. They're really interesting looking bugs, and I know that's kind of weird, because I know the truth of it is that the hornets are the things that help kill caterpillars and inchworms to prevent devastation of crops. And I know I seem to probably have a lot of animosity towards hornets and all of that, but that's actually another story which I'll probably have to cover in another video. Yeah, hornets, I know they serve a purpose, but and, more often than not, they're not trying to be evil. They're just kind of like there, and more often than not, they're just defensive. But yeah, it was so cool that there were all these worms all around, and I found it really interesting and all. So I want to say that, what did we do? I think it was kind of cruel at the time. I didn't know it, but we used to have like cages you can keep bugs in. And me and my neighbors, we used to put them in the cage. We did take them out eventually. They didn't stay in for the entire time, but we did, we put leaves in there and water, and just to watch them, which probably I wouldn't do now. I didn't know at the time, but it was like a bug cage. But, obviously we would take them out. We wouldn't leave them in there. So weird. But yeah, it was very, very interesting that they were just everywhere. It was a really interesting summer. I want to say my parents once told me a story of when they were in Oklahoma, and they had a similar infestation. And I want to say that it's going to get gross, but there were so many of the bagworms that eventually, when they would have to like drive out of the driveway, they would hear them popping under their tires because they were just it was just a total infestation. So yeah, sadly, a lot of them got crushed, which is yeah. But I'm guessing they were invasive, so you know. But yeah, that's the bagworm story. Yeah, bagworms. I don't. Like I said, I don't think they're like the common bagworms. I couldn't find any good images. I'm actually drawing silkworms right now, so maybe I will have to try to find a better worm in the future to draw for them once I find out what type of species they are, which is really hard to find. You know, it's always really weird to understand that a lot of caterpillars and inchworms are actually really bad for the environment. I mean, they put everything in check, but like they eat, so they just devastate crops and plants, and that's why you have hornets and wasps and I guess vespoids would be the word to take care of them. Sadly, but you know, no one ever thinks about that. Everyone like loves butterflies. They don't see them as the crop destroyers. And it's so weird to say that, you know, because like I feel like very few people like looking at a wasp compared to a butterfly. I would say. Maybe I'm wrong. There probably are some enthusiasts out there who do like them. But yeah, that was interesting. That was so long ago. This was probably in 2004, 2003. It may have been 2002, to be honest. I can't remember the exact year it happened, but it was a summer. And when I was growing up, I used to play in my backyard a lot with my neighbor. I had a big backyard, so we would always play like soccer or actually probably more baseball more than anything. And then that kind of falls into the wasp story in which there were crab apples all in the yard. And what we used to do is, my backyard was big, but there was a hill. So we used to take the crab apples and chuck them up the hill, just like pelt them. It was kind of like some early baseball practice before we would actually play baseball. You know, kind of warm up, you could say. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. Very, very interesting. But yeah, eventually that tree got so devastated. I want to say I think termites eventually inhabited that tree, and it just it didn't fall down completely, but eventually it was just like a dead stump. I wish I didn't hate the tree so much. It sounds so weird that I'm hating on a tree, you know, it's just trying to live just like all the bugs are. But yeah, that was so long ago. Interesting days. But yeah, I have to say, I think maybe some people in the area made jam out of the apples. I think you could do that, maybe. Yeah, I always wondered why they kind of caused digestive issues if we would eat them, which we did try once. They were very sour, very, very, I guess the right word would be tart. They were extremely, extremely tart. And yeah, they were always green. Always green. Yeah, I remember them like it was yesterday. They were very small though, so it wasn't like a full apple. Like I know probably most people were thinking like, "Whoa, that you're wasting like all those apples." No, they were like tiny. They were not substantial. They were just small. But I do remember eating them before. And you know, this was like we didn't wash them off or anything. I think more often than not, we'd actually take them off the tree if we wanted a fresh one. We wouldn't eat the ones that fell to the ground because those are the ones that were usually already rotting and attracting hornets. But yeah, more often than not, it was the ones that were still on the tree that we would take off and try. But maybe it was just that fruit tree was early in its life Like, I think it takes fruit trees a long time for them until you could pick them. Or I could be wrong on that, I don't really know. I guess I should be grateful, I'm just being selfish with that, you know? But yeah, that is the bagworm story. They were everywhere, and we didn't kill them. I think, like, I remember seeing very few dead ones. But you think some bugs out there probably got to them. I don't think the birds like them all that much. But, you know. Well, thank you for sticking around in this video. I drew some what I think are bagworms, probably not. But yeah, thank you for listening. In the next one, I'll probably talk about the time I went on a hike, and I went on a hike with my dad, and it was the wasp encounter. Not a fun story, which still kind of scars me to this day. But yeah, thanks for listening. If you have a question, ask in the comments. If you like the video, please like it. If you like my channel, please subscribe. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.